Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next session for the RoboHead User Conference. We're so glad you're here, and we hope you've enjoyed it until this point. I'm really excited to introduce our next speaker. Susie Hall is Aquint's President of Community and Customer Engagement. She has many great insights on automation. She's talked to many experts and has great knowledge to share. Before she jumps in, I want to just share a couple of housekeeping details to make sure you can follow along with the event. So, first, hopefully by now you have had the opportunity to chat, ask questions, maybe respond to some polls. You can see all of that on the right hand side. You'll be able to engage, and we really encourage you to ask questions throughout this session as well as the rest of the event. Hopefully by now you've had a chance also to get as many entries into the prize drawing as possible. There are some really great prizes up for grabs this year. So, if you haven't, if you don't know, you'll get an entry for every session that you attend during the event, and then you can also submit a review on G2 for an additional 10 entries. You can grab that link from the info desk in the lobby, or actually, you'll have it in your email as well. And then lastly, we want you to go back and watch sessions you missed, or maybe you just really love what Susie has to say and you want to watch it again or share it with a friend. You can do that from the agenda in the lobby as well. You can see the recordings for any session that has already taken place. So I encourage you to check those out, share them with your friend, like I said, and enjoy. So now I'm really excited to turn it over to Susie.
Thank you so much, Abby, and welcome to the automation revolution. Today, I am going to talk to you about unlocking efficiency in the creative process, something I imagine you have a lot of thoughts and opinions around. But first, I want to set the stage just a little bit with what is automation, because automation is a lot of things. Part of automation is AI. And if you've read anything anywhere lately, you cannot avoid this concept of AI being everywhere. This is a site, Futurepedia, that is attempting to aggregate all the AI tools that are coming out every single day. Here's an interesting stat from just this one site that is aggregating those tools. Less than 1 year ago, this site had 150 tools on it. Now it has over 6,100 tools. And remember, this is just one site out there on the internet trying to capture all those AI tools. So it's near impossible to stay on top of what automation could be out there. It's creating a lot of problems for creative operations leaders in particular. So as Abby mentioned, I'm Susie Hall. I am president of community and customer engagement here at Aquint. And my coolest job in the world is to run a community for senior creative operations leaders at high profile brands called Inside Out. So for the past 4 years, I have spent a lot of time sitting with creative operations leaders and listening to their challenges. And believe me, automation, especially right now, is a really, really big one. So, what I'm going to share with you today is one exploration that we did together with our Inside Out community that I think can help you get started exploring automation and how it might fit your unique situation. So, that's what I'm going to share today. Here's the basic framework of what we did together in a live roundtable, actually, five live roundtables on exactly the same topic. We started out by asking three questions. The first one was, what parts of the creative process could be automated? So this was just a brainstorm. How do we get started and think about our own processes? Not think about automation first, but what are the processes that we currently have and what is possible? Number two, what are the obstacles to automation? Because believe me, I know you know this already. You can't just roll out automation as part of your process. You are going to run into obstacles. So thinking through those in advance would be helpful. And number three, we ask the question, how can operations leaders make progress and safely test automation? How do you take that next step into putting it into action? So again, hopefully this is a framework you can also use with your team. And I'm about to break it down each section by section, and I'm going to share two things with you. First, I'm going to share some questions that you can ask yourself or your own team within each of these categories so that you can get to the same wonderful outcomes we did that are unique to you. So you'll have three questions. There's a lot of threes in this presentation. Three questions. Then I'm going to share some of the actual learnings that we came up with in our discussion of each of these three categories. So are you ready? Yes, we're ready. Here we go. So step one is the exploration of what could be automated. To instead of just throwing this question out, I encourage you to ask three simple questions of yourself or your team. The first one is, what are the most repetitive and time consuming tasks in our current process? These are ones that are likely ripe for automation and can really help you speed things up. Second question is, where's the highest likelihood of human error? Look in your current process and find where that might be. And automation is a place that could create consistency and move that along faster. The third question in your exploration could be, when does the process that you currently have most often break? And you know this because your users are complaining. So you can take these three questions to your team and get started with a brainstorm exploration of what could be automated. Step one. And are you ready for the fun part? Yes, we're ready. What I'm going to share with you now are four high level takeaways that our groups had when we explored what could be automated. The first one, this is going to sound very familiar, I bet: file organization, routing, and versioning. Think about it. This fits all three of those categories. A high likelihood of human error. Absolutely. This is where your process can break too. So thinking about, and excuse me, very repetitive as well, right? So this is a place where you can really explore automation within your own group. Another thing is creative asset reviews and approvals. Lots of humans involved in that, lots of steps that can be triggered by automation and also can be moved along with automation. Number three is capacity planning and reporting, whether that is capturing time or information, or that is how you report that out and to whom. Key area that could be automated from our discussions. And number four is project communications, all of the project communications and note taking, the communication that happens throughout every project you are working on. Believe me, there are spots in there I'm sure you can automate. Here's some really fantastic news for those of you who are here at the RoboHead User Conference. You've got RoboHead. So guess what? RoboHead offers all of these things, automation functionality that can help tackle all of these things. Or they're currently working on a few things that will help round out all of these categories. So you got it in your hands, some things that already could be automated, that the functionality exists in the tool that your teams are used to. And that leads me to number two. What are the obstacles to automation? So we're going to give you three questions here that you can ask yourself or your team to uncover obstacles, again, that are unique to your organization and your systems. So, how open to change is your organization? That's a no brainer. If they're not very open to change, you're going to have a lot bigger obstacles, right? What support do you need to explore automation, and who's going to ultimately own it? Is that you? And if so, do you actually have time for that? Another question is, how can you explore within existing work to limit distraction? If you try to roll out automation and roll out a new part of your process, you've got a lot of moving parts and you might not know which of those didn't work. So, how can you use your existing work to get people engaged and see the value of automation? So, these are three questions that you can ask for your own team to figure out the obstacles that you're up against in order to bring automation to your processes. And now I'm going to share four high level takeaways from our discussions around the topic of automation for obstacles. Here we go. Number one, it's not part of the corporate strategy. So if you're working at an organization that is embracing automation and AI, you are going to have a lot more to work with to be able to explain to people why they have to or should be trying out automation and testing and exploring with you. Not enough. Number two is not enough time to explore and deliver. Hey, this is for anything that you do, right? But if you don't have time set aside, this is going to be a challenge, not just for you, but for anyone you try to involve in the process. Number three is lack of integration with your existing tools. If what you're trying to roll out doesn't fit or work with the tool that you already have, then you are going to have a greater challenge. So this is one of the biggest obstacles. Good news, RoboHead, lots of integration. So this should be less of a challenge for you RoboHead users, but definitely a challenge when it comes to automation. And number four is lack of clear ownership and accountability. This is back to who owns it. If no one owns automation as a mission, then you are going to have bigger obstacles to actually seeing it through. So, step three, let's move to action. How can you test and measure automation? This was our question. And here are 3 questions you can use to explore within your own team. Where could you craft a small pilot with likely impact? Because you want a story to tell of how automation and this that you're introducing is actually working, and therefore everyone else should try it. So, where can you have the biggest impact with the smallest lift? Number 2, who on or outside your current team can help? And when you think about team for you, RoboHead is also your team. So you may need help from RoboHead to learn what those automation functionalities already are. And you're here to learn too, which is fantastic. Number 3 is, what will you need to measure and prove success? So if you start out on your test and you don't capture the information that you need to prove that it actually worked, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting people to get on board with you. So these are 3 questions to explore before you start building tests and figuring out what you need to measure. So here are 4 takeaways from our inside out leaders discussions about how can you safely test and measure. Number 1 is that starting with a pilot that is small but is likely to have impact. So think about your team. Do you have a group of folks that love to explore? They're very tech savvy. They want to jump on automation. Do you have a group that's doing that is also attached to something important to your organization, where the impact of automation is going to be highly visible? That's a great place for you to start. Number 2, get buy-in from the bottom first and then go up. So the folks that are going to have to use the automation features that you turn on, if they don't believe that it's worthwhile, you're going to struggle to get adoption. You are going to need support. Executive support, or at least senior leader support, will help you move it forward. But to get started, you got to get the users on board. Number 3, bring in an outside expert to provide perspective. That could literally be a peer of yours that works at another organization that is already testing automation. That could be someone you bring in. It could be someone here on this very conference who you've met who is using the automation features of RoboHead. They can talk about how you could use that for your team and get them on board. And number 4, I can't say this enough: measure, iterate, and so on. One of the things that leaders brought up over and over again is that if you get to the end of releasing automation and you really don't know what you were trying to achieve, or you don't have the data to prove it, you're going to be in trouble. So make sure that you have measurements and checks in place to be sure the automation that you turned on is doing what you want it to do as well. So hopefully this has been helpful. We have 3 easy steps to join the automation revolution, and here they are. The first one is to explore what could be. So don't hold back, brainstorm, think what's possible. Number 2 is uncover those obstacles before you do anything else. If you know what you're going to be up against, you can prepare yourself for it and have a better chance of overcoming them. And number 3 is to create those tests, then measure, iterate, repeat. Measure, iterate, repeat. That will set you up for success. So I know all these are not necessarily easy, and you may not be convinced yet, but I have something that will convince you. Ready? This is a stat from our RoboHead team. Teams who use Roboscripts, the automation functionality, some of the automation functionality that exists in RoboHead already, they have a project duration time that is less than half of those that don't. That's a pretty powerful stat. So let's hope you're on the team that's using them, because then you look really cool right now. And if you're not, what are you waiting for? Give those Roboscripts a try. So thanks so much for listening to some takeaways here about the automation revolution. I really hope you join the automation revolution, that you found some insights today that can help you get to the next step in your automation journey. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susie. That was super helpful. I love the practical tips. I think everybody should feel empowered to get started on at least a small test. So, thanks again. Make sure you join the next session coming up with Will Goad. He will be sharing actually some practical tips to even get started right away with simplifying your project delivery with RoboScripts. So, if you liked that last stat, make sure you head on over to the next session right now. So, thanks again. See you guys soon.